Alright guys, here's a part 2 of my review and comparison of the Lightning Nomad versus the Hobie Outback 2018 and older. Um, like my previous video mentioned, I finally got my the kayak that I won at a tournament last year. It's the Lightning Nomad. The basic design, the design concept, the drive, pretty much everything is feeding off of the build of a Hobie. They don't say it, but they imply it quite a bit, even in their marketing, their advertising, and their videos. So, um, with this being said, I mentioned that I was going to be comparing the two and just kind of going through some of the points that were different, that stood out, that were possibly something that might make an impact on how this kayak is used. So let's go get right into it. All right. So right off the bat, you guys could tell, already see the close resemblance in the hull. Not very much to really kind of point out here. Obviously, it looks like there is more flare on the Hobie Outback. So I believe they actually flared it out right here a little bit more, with the idea of possibly reducing some of that hull slap that people have mentioned about Hobies that they don't like. But honestly, it didn't never really bother me. But yes, this it does flare out a little bit, and it is a little smoother. So we'll see if that makes a difference when it comes down to stability or anything like that as far as performance. But very similar, obviously. Both have the roped handles, so there's nothing different there. Obviously, as I mentioned, the Hobie Outback, the Lightning Nomad does have the open front hatch, front little storage area there with the cover. Currently, I just have a box in there. Obviously, the Hobie has the front hatch. Nothing to really show there. Now, the biggest thing here is that it has been said that and I agree, that the Hobie Outback does tend to get water when you are going through waves or currents that have when water does come over the hull in any bit. So that is kind of the benefit here for this open storage area, and obviously they have that open space to allow for proper drainage once it does get into this front hull. Alright, moving back. Lightning tried to make it as user-friendly, or user-friendly out of the package, I guess you could say. They do have the 6 track mounts through from the front all the way to the rear. They are made of aluminum, whereas the Hobie did not. I had to add these various mounts for the Hobie Outback, and you really only get the cutout storages for the cup holders and such for the Hobie, whereas the Lightning does not have any of that right there. Another simple thing, I don't know if it's going to make an impact or not. I do use these side storage areas quite a bit for used lures, torn lures, fish scents, or whatever it is. But this does not have it, although they did provide the spares, or the ones that you can attach at your own leisure. Right there. So go on right here. But it's not cut out, obviously, the plastic, so you'll probably be limited on what you could hold in there. It is made out of rubber, so it will stretch, but obviously the more stretch you give it, the more wear it's going to have and the more tear. Moving on. So obviously I've already pointed out what I with the in-haul rod holders. The Hobie does have the molded in ones. It is actually a larger size to fit larger rod butts and such than the sizes provided for the Lightning. But I do like these rod holders better because rarely do I have rod holders or rod butts that are so big that it won't fit. And these rod holders here do fit, do have the little notched out bottom for gimbal mount use, and I don't think you can really see that. Oh, actually you might be able to kind of see it there. There's a little notch there to kind of hold your rods in place, which I have shown you, and I'll just go ahead and show you again here. So what that gimbal mount rod holder does is it allows your rod to stay put without it rotating all around the place, and it locks into place. So I mean, keep in mind that it doesn't keep a rod in the rod holder, but it keeps it from twisting. Alright, moving on. I added that square hatch or rectangular hatch, so that's not something that comes with the Hobie Outback, so I will say that it's kind of even or the same there, but I do have it, so that's the difference there. But you get the deck mat here for your feet, and also back in the storage area on the Lightning, which you do not for the Hobie Outback. And before I move on here, you actually get the single cord rudder system just to lower and raise your rudder. Whereas this one, the Hobie Outback, you have the release to pull your rudder down, and then the pull to the retrieve on that little cord right there. Another thing about the rudder, the Hobie rudders, the handle there, the control, it only has just the rudder control, whereas the Lightning, you do get the little knob to lock your rudder in place. And I showed you in the other video, you guys could take a look there. The Lightning rudder is self-retractable, so it's just held down by gravity. So if you're going straight and the rudder hits something, the rudder will kick back in to its own little safety pocket cut out on the bottom of the kayak, as I have shown in the previous videos. Kind of a luxury thing possibly, but Hobie does come with its own paddle. Lightning does not, so could be a plus or minus thing, but it's yeah, for what it's worth, the Hobie, you do get the paddle right off the bat, whereas this does not. Oh, just one more thing, you can switch the rudder control to over here if you'd like, or again, I don't know if you could do a dual or anything like that, but you do have the option to switch sides if you like the right hand. The other thing is the handle. This is kind of what I felt like Hobie was nicer in, because the handle's right in the center of the kayak. So when you lift it by the handle, it's not rocking and it's balanced, so you can carry the kayak fairly easily. Actually, I'm not the biggest person in the world, so and I could carry it perfectly fine. It's not hard at all. Whereas this, you could already see the positioning of the handle. I mean, total length and everything is pretty darn similar on these two kayaks, but you see that the handle is already almost a foot back from the Hobie handle, so when you pick it up, you're practically dragging the front end, and you are not able to pick it up without using both hands. One hand on this holder here, and one hand in the drive well there. The actual clips itself looks pretty identical, to be honest. So it's probably more of a build thing between the two. So we shall see. We shall see if one is better than the other. I'll come back to dimensions after, But you guys could already tell. I mean, this kayak, it's cut out like almost like a canoe. I mean, there's a lot of space, so I think there's gonna be a big space advantage. But then again, you do get the large rails on the side of the Hobie, so that's kind of a plus there. But sometimes I do feel like that this space is actually a nice thing, and obviously I told you about the tackle box cutouts that fits the 3600s on the sides, and obviously the 3700 plano tackles fit nicely underneath. Whereas the Hobie Outback, since that bar is in the way, you can only fit so much, and you have to have the seat pretty much all the way up. Whereas this one, you do kind of have to have it on the high notch as well, but it's pretty roomy underneath the seat, so you cannot have it on the low cutouts to slide the tackle boxes in. But anyhow, that's that. And then obviously the Hobie seats. I mean, it's a sure bet winner. I mean, the Hobie seats are far more comfortable, far more advanced. It actually locks into the bar there, so you're not really at risk with the clipping in the back. You're not at risk of losing your seat. So that's that. I think that seat is a sure bet winner compared to this seat here. But again, test may prove me wrong, so I'll give it a go and let you guys know. One of the things about the rudder pulley cords, I've heard is pretty difficult. I haven't had to replace it yet, but I heard it's pretty difficult to replace. Whereas the Lightning kayak, it's all right in here, so it's pretty easy, and also it's just a single cord that goes to this, so it should be a lot easier. Whereas I believe the Hobie Outback, there's a tubing that actually allows the cord to go all the way to the front. So that is pending there. And I also noticed, this is actually kind of nice. I didn't point this out in the other video. The drainage plug is on the side here, whereas the drainage plug is on the back rear for the Hobie Outback. So it's very difficult, in my opinion, to drain the Hobie Outback. You got to tilt it up at an awkward angle, whereas this, you could stand it up on its side, sort of, and drain it. Of course, again, I have to try it out to really feel the difference. But yeah, that spot for the drain plug is, I feel like it's kind of difficult to drain. But then again, it's kind of higher, so you might be at less risk of it draining or taking water into it if it were to leak or something like that. Another big difference, obviously no hatch here in the back. I don't use that for anything really, but accessibility for your rudder controls and whatnot, so it's not really that much of an advantage, I feel like. And you get the motor mount on the Lightning kayak, whereas that one, I haven't found any options to get the rudder motor mount put on this. I'm sure there is a way. And then the other thing is, we often find that the rudder catches our lines, especially if the fish were to swim around or current spins us around or whatever. So I don't know if there's going to be an advantage of the rudder being actually underneath the kayak. I feel like it should get stuck less, just because it's just a blade that's sticking down. You should be able to get it free pretty easy. Whereas this one, you have the whole gear on the outside, which it gets stuck on and wrapped around it. So that might be a disadvantage there. So yeah, that's kind of the general walk down of the two. Oh, and I guess they added some security for rod leashes and stuff. So that's kind of a difference there. Now, I guess, yeah, that's the rough walk down of the two. Now let's get into dimensions and the drive. So one last thing that I forgot to mention while I was back here was that this handle here, I think, is going to be a game changer in my opinion in trying to load my kayak, because I usually load it bow first into my truck, but this is going to make it a lot easier as opposed to this, because I'm always playing with this rudder, trying to pull it up. It's kind of awkward, but I think that this is going to make it a lot easier. So that's just one thing I did want to point out. It is a different solid handle here as opposed to another quartered handle here. So that's that. So overall length, you guys can find it on the online. I believe it's like pretty close, 12'7" versus 12'6". I think it is, but I'll leave that alone. That's something that's easily found online. I guess the drive distance up here, it's about 20 and 3/4 inches. Space for your knees, right around the cup holder. It's 23 inches. And then now where you sit is 25 inches. So over here, where the drive is 20 inches. Space for your knees is about 22. And yeah, where your seat is about 21.5. So it's like, it's close, but obviously it is clearly a little wider on that because of the railing differences. Now the bay here, so now with the Hobie, I noticed that you can't load up the back with too much stuff because you will weigh it down and potentially put your rear of the kayak into the water, really. But the thing is, but yeah, it is longer. So you get a cockpit or a rear storage of 27 to, let's just go with the widest point, 19.5, 16 there, but here, 21, and 20.5. So it is wider, clearly, on that, but longer. Yeah, much longer on the Hobie Outback. So depending on the shape of your tackle box or your crate or your cooler, obviously some people like to have the ice boxes in the back. I guess one or the other could be an advantage there. So that's that. And then the seats. The seat is 18 inches versus 20 inches, so 2 inches wider. And then from the back to the front, 17 inches. And 13.5 inches. So clearly the Lightning seat is much bigger. But honestly, I feel like you get plenty of room out of this one here, so I don't. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'm gonna enjoy a lot more space, but these seats are pretty comfortable, so it's tough to beat there. So now for the drive, obviously I have the newer 180 drive of the Hobie Outback, which obviously allows you to go forward and backwards based on these cords here. I don't have the kick fins, but this is the newer drive here. Obviously very proven. And this is your, like, it's kind of like your older style Hobie Mirage drive, the V1s. But you are able to change out the fins to a Hobie turbo fin, apparently to increase the speed and improve performance. I kind of pointed out just the build of it. I mean, these here, as I mentioned before, you do get this kind of loose stuff there, whereas the Hobie, they've created this little split ring that locks into this plastic notch right here that keeps it tucked away and clean, nothing rattling in place. So a much cleaner design in my opinion, but obviously they've been around for a lot longer. So I guess I thought that the Lightning was actually sitting higher, but I mean it's roughly like 13 and a half. Yeah, the height of the kayak is very similar too, so I thought that this kayak would catch much more wind, especially if making it drift faster. But it doesn't seem to be the case. It seems very similar actually. So yeah, I mean, all I have left to do is really just go out and test it. Overall, I think that the overall design of the kayak is actually not bad. I think that it's gonna be helpful. It's gonna be nice, but it just, at least initial feel, it does feel like you see where the cost savings are between the two kayaks. So ultimately, what it comes down to me is mostly durability. I know that depending on what kind of Hobie owner you are or what kind of kayak you got, I think that the 2017 kayak that I have, I mean, is as close to bulletproof as you could get. I mean, I'm already riding it pretty hard, and you guys can see how scuffed up and damaged it is. It's riding 7 years strong now for me, and I think just last year is when I really totally kind of screwed up the Mirage drive and the rudder, and due to my negligence. So I think that's a solid platform. But now I guess the newer kayaks, there's mixed feelings about it. Some people say that it is the integrity of the build is different and not as sturdy. So I mean, that's really left to all y'all's own opinion on that. But definitely the cost is way up there. I think it's pushing $4,000 now, whereas this is still at 2,200 or 2,300, somewhere around there. So definitely the cost is savings. It's there. So to be honest, if the hull holds up better or even just the same amount as a Hobie, I personally have no complaints, because I really put the kayak through some rough conditions, so I can't have leaks and possibilities of cracks happening on me there. So nor do I want to go through the whole warranty and all that stuff. So but yeah, all I got left is to take it on the water and try it out. Hopefully I could do that in the coming week or weeks here. And as soon as I get that, I'll get that to you guys. Like I said, I did mention a lot of kind of down points on it, but it's only because the similarities are there. But I mean, cosmetically, it doesn't hurt me unless it doesn't. I'm not too concerned about the cosmetics, but if there are some weld qualities that are potentially weak points, that's the stuff that I'm more concerned about. So, but yeah, I mean, if the kayak floats and it stays afloat even through the test of time, that's kind of what I really value most in a kayak. So. But yeah, I'll get it on the water and get you guys the on-water review. It probably won't be a side-by-side, but I'll at least get my take on this and report back to you guys on how it is and how it performs out there on the water. So until then, I'll catch you guys later. Thanks for tuning in. Just feel free to ask me any questions. I know that they're actually in stores, but it's not too common. I haven't seen any videos about it yet, really. So just give me a shout. I'll answer any questions, and maybe if it's convincing enough, you guys can get your hands on one and give it a shot for yourselves. But until next time, thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you all later.